Okay, I'm going to show you how I get my unit ready. So I'm going to go ahead and turn it on. And we're going to preheat the PLA. So I installed those new clamps here and here. And I got the tube hooked in there. Everything's nice and sturdy now. Before I only had 2, maybe 3 threads in there, and now I got like 5 or 6. So it's nice and steady now. So I preheat the PLA so I can just push it through there, make sure it's flowing out the nozzle correctly. And I just wipe down the bed. I use acetone. I wiped it down. Now before, I was using these nozzles. These are the 0.4, and I was going through quite a bit of them. Then I used that 0.6, and I drilled them out to 28 thousandths, and that's been working really good. I've only used 2 nozzles. I'm on my second one. So anyway, it's at temperature now. So I see it flowing out there. And I'm going to go ahead and give it a little push. So it's coming out pretty good. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to preheat the bed. And I used this before, and I set the bed. I got this indicator holder right here. I spread that apart and put the indicator in there, and I checked the 4 corners. And usually once I do that, I don't have to do it again. But I'll show you what I do, or what I did the first time, and normally I don't have to do it anymore after that, because we got that thing with the baby Z steps in here, and that compensates for a lot of error as far as the nozzle height goes. So when this gets up to temperature, I'm going to home it out. So it's up to temperature now. So I'm going to auto home it. So I'm going to disable the steppers. So now they're disabled. I'm going to check it with a little piece of paper. And it's high, which is what I want. I want the nozzle high so I can adjust it. See, that's pretty loose. Like I said, I did this before, so I really don't have to do this, but I'm showing you what I did. So I take my little indicator. This is an electronic one that I had, and I took the back off because it's got that thing in the back, and I didn't need it because it hits here and here, but it's nice and light. So I just put it in there and give that a little, spread that apart a little bit. So go ahead and turn that on. Zero that out. So we'll just check the corners here. I'm not really looking for a height, I'm just looking to make sure they're all even. So you want to move this kind of slow. Now see, that's good. If you move it too fast, it generates a current back into the board. So you want to move it kind of slow. That's 1/1000ths off there. That's okay. So that's good. I got 0, 0 pretty much everywhere. Now when you move it, you know, when you're moving it, this table will move up and down as you move it. See, I can sit here and I can move this table because it's got springs on it. So you let it sit, and so I got 0 everywhere. So that's good. And I just take this back off. Like I said, once you got this set, you don't usually have to adjust it anymore. So we know it's a little high, but that's okay. So we're going to print so now that bed's got to heat back up, and then the PLA is going to heat up. Now I have my PLA set at 209. I think 200 is the standard setting on it, and I got it 209 because I want it to flow a little faster through that nozzle. So when that is up to temperature and it's going to start its little run making the part, I got a little skirt that goes around the part, and that's when I adjust the Z height on this. And I'm using black right now because it's near the end of the spool and I want to go ahead and use it up. But I like the white because you can see it a lot better. So I'm going to go into this tune. And I go down here and it says baby Z. Now if I turn this clockwise, it goes up. If I turn it counterclockwise, it goes down. So it's going over here, and I know it's a little high. It's not even coming out. So I turn it down minus 99. I'm going to turn it down minus 199. See, now it's starting to come out. So now it's right there. And it's looking good. It's kind of a flat. I know it's hard to see because it's black. So actually it's a little bit lower than what it should be. But I do that on the first layer because what I understand is that when you're doing the first layer, if it's like smushed, it's too low. If you got a little bow on the side, on each side, that's perfect. If it's like round, it's too tall. This is what you're trying to do. You're trying to get a little where it's mushed on the side. This is too low, but I do this on the first layer because I want it to stick to the bed. You see, everything is sticking to the bed here. Nothing's coming up. So I got that at minus 0.199, and I write that down. And I do that because next time I start this, it's going to be at the same setting. I started at minus 1.99. And then when it gets done with the first layer, I'll raise it a little bit because, like I said, right now I got a little smushed and I need to raise it a little bit to get it perfect. And I don't want it too high because then it doesn't stick. But this is the way it is right now. So everything's sticking to the bottom. Everything's looking good. Now when it finishes all the circles or squares or anything like that, and it starts doing the pattern, the fill pattern, that's when you can start raising it. But you want to make sure that all the circles and the squares or anything that's coming up through the part is sticking down at the bottom and not just moving around on the table. See, now it's starting to fill pattern. You can tell because it's doing that little cross section kind of thing. You see how that's kind of flat? Now see, when it's doing that little cross section thing, See, it looks kind of scruffy. You know, it doesn't look smooth at all. And that's another indication that it's too low. But that's how it sticks to the bed, though. By being too low, it works for me. I don't know about everybody else. But anyway, at this point, or actually a little bit earlier, what I do is I raise that up. So I'll go up to minus 0.99. Well, minus 0.099. So that actually went up. So I'll mark that. So I'll let that go for a little while. I'll let it do the bottom. Now you'll see that it has gotten a lot better. Now this print job I'm working on here, it's a 8-hour print job. But once that, when I do the circles and the squares or anything that has to be done like that, like I said, I'll put it at minus 0.199. Of course, that's what this setting is for this machine. It depends on the initial gap that you have between the nozzle and the bed. Now, I had mine kind of loose, so it drops down quite a bit. But if you have yours tight, you probably won't drop it down that much. You'll drop it down just maybe one rotation of the knob, not one click. I mean, not a full rotation. Now see, that's looking a lot better. See, this one over here is looking kind of scruffy, kind of rough. And this back here, when I turned it up one notch, it's looking a lot better. I mean, it's still not the way it should be, because I know I still have it too low. So when it finishes this first layer, I'll turn it up another notch, turn it back to 0. Now see how much better that's looking there compared to this over here? See how that's kind of scratchy and it's not good? This one over here is a lot better. That's looking real good. But the important thing is it's sticking to the bed. Yeah, it's looking real good there. So after that finishes that bottom layer, that first cross section pattern as a fill, well, that's going to be the outer skin of the bottom, is what that first layer is. So after that gets done there, I'll turn this up to 0, which is raising this, the Z, up. I don't know what these, how much it's actually moving. I guess it's some kind of metric thing. But I'll raise it back up to 0. And that'll be where it's going to ride for a little while and then later on, if it's, sometimes I'll raise it even more, so it'll be a 0.099. It'll be above 0. Now these numbers, I mean, they can be different on your machine. They're just basically numbers. I mean, you could probably start, you know, you could, yours might, your minus 0.099 might be the 0 on your machine, depending on, like I said, the initial gap between the nozzle and the bed. If you have a wider gap when you first start, you might go down maybe minus 0.299. That might be your initial setting. If you have a wider gap, because you got to bring the Z down closer. So you can't really go by these numbers, but I go by these numbers for this machine because that's the way it's set. Now when you set your machine, it might be different, but the principle is the same. Like I said, I go down to minus 0.199, and that makes it flat like this, and then I start raising it. This number is still a little bit on the flat side, and then when I get to 0, it's pretty much ideal. And then if the thing's going across the top and you hear it scraping across the top, that usually means it's just a little bit too low, so then I'll jump it up one more notch. Because you have other factors here, you know, as the machine gets warm, it starts to expand, and, you know, different things. It's not, you know, just because you dial it in at the beginning doesn't mean, you know, an hour later it's the same way. You know, the temperature of the room changes, and there's a lot of different factors there. But that's looking good there. So like I said, when I get this first layer done, I'm gonna bump it up. But it's this baby Z step, because before I talked about having that little piece on the back where I can adjust it, this and that, and then I found out that this has got this in here. So if I go back, that's under the tune. I'll go back to the info screen. See, I'm only at 1% because it just started. Now, you know, I'm using those 0.6 nozzles, and I got them drilled out to 28 thousandths. But the rest of the setup is all standard except for those clamps, which I really like. There's no issues with those clamps. That boron tube doesn't back off. And when I go to take this boron tube out, I just loosen these two bolts and pull that cap forward, and it's tube, if the hot end is heated up, the tube comes right out. I don't have to worry about pushing those little clamp things that they put on here, and it works out real well. So that's pretty close to doing the first layer, so I'm going to go ahead and bump it up. Yeah, I just finished the first layer. See, now it's doing the outline of the part again. So I'm going to go in here to tune. I think I missed it. Oh yeah, I went one too many. Now see, when I go back here, it starts at 0, so I'm going to tune it up, turn it up one notch. Matter of fact, I think I'll go ahead and turn it up 2 notches. So when you get out of there and you go back, it just starts at 0. But if I was to leave it in there, I would be at 0.099 at this point, but now I'm at 0.199 because I turned it up 2 notches. But that's essentially it. Okay.